Hi, everyone. It is one of those weeks where I am really happy that the week is coming to a close. And that's because it has been an intense and hectic week in Parliament. I don't know, there was always this sense that a lot of us had that people in Parliament don't work, like they don't do anything. They just every once in a while come and do this whole big public debate thing. And maybe they didn't. So I still do maintain that, I don't know, we can't have all been wrong. Maybe they weren't doing as much work as we are. But it could be that because we're a smaller party and we have less seats, we're just really busy because we're trying to make sure that we represent you as far and wide as possible, and that, we're there and your voice is there. But it's been hectic, is the point. There's been a lot that's been going on in Parliament, and I've been thinking a lot about the work and the role of Parliament. A fundamental part of the work of Parliament is portfolio committees. And as many of you will know, I sit on 4 portfolio committees. Trade and industry is the main committee that I participate in: small business development, water and sanitation, basic education. And so, that is being quite stretched. But I also sit on the rules committee, and that is an important committee in Parliament, particularly now with us having a GNU government and the kind of composition of Parliament that we've never seen before in this country. So I want to talk about that. I want to talk about what Parliament's about. I want to talk about a development that happened in the Rules Committee. Really, Parliament is about representing you, making sure that you're represented as we legislate, as we do oversight and ensure that the executive is doing their job, which is the work of the portfolio committees, as we make sure that we are contributing to the plans of these different portfolios. It is important that we make sure that there is true representation as per the votes that came in elections. One of the things that had been a problem in Parliament was that the portfolio, which is the presidency, did not have oversight. There was no portfolio committee that was overseeing the presidency. And what we've seen is that we've had more and more portfolios and responsibilities being put into the presidency. One of them is the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation. In the previous administration, we saw electricity go in there. There's a lot that's happening in that presidency. And so you have to make sure that there is due oversight. What happened recently was that sitting in the Rules Committee, we got to make the decision that there be a portfolio committee that oversees the presidency, and that is big. It means that some of the issues that have happened in previous administrations that did not have oversight, that did not have robust oversight in the presidency, could have been prevented. And now we're going to be able to do that in this administration and going forward. It is historical. And that's part of the great stuff, the good things about being part of Parliament and representing you. It's being part of history. And being part of making sure that we really truly have a responsive kind of government. So that's important. Still on accountability and oversight, I recently went to Mamelodi Hospital to go and do an oversight visit. My team informed the hospital that I would be coming. They were informed that morning that I would be coming. But even that is a courtesy because Section 55 makes it the responsibilities of members of Parliament to do oversight. It's part of our responsibility. It's accountability through the portfolio committees. It is oversight in various ways, including going and doing oversight visits, and then obviously it's legislating. But Section 55 gives us the mandate and responsibility to evaluate, to assess the work of public institutions. And there is no rule that says that you have to announce. There's no rule that says you need permission. You are permitted as an MP to do an unscheduled visit to a public institution. And so I went. And when I got there, there was drama. There was quite a lot of drama. First of all, I arrive and there are 9 security personnel. So as I arrive, we come and we announce I'm here to do oversight. Immediately within a couple of minutes, the security officers arriving, like 9 of them. Eventually, at some point, so is it standard procedure? Are there 9 security officers that sit at this gate every day? And they're like, no, we were at our post, but we were informed you'd be coming. And we were told that as soon as you get here, we call everybody from their post to come and stand here and make sure you don't come in. I'm like, yo, just me, just little old me. A woman at that with 9 security officers. It got heated, but all in all, the information we were given is that the MEC for Health had been called by the CEO for the hospital when they were informed that I was coming, and she was told that I was coming, and she told them categorically to not let me in. And so a back and forth ensued with me insisting that this is my responsibility and I have the right to come in and do oversight. But, it was very clear I was not going to be let in. And it seems that the MEC has sent notification to all the hospitals in Gauteng to say that no member of parliament, no member of the legislature, no member of a Chapter 9 institution is allowed to come into any of the facilities of the Department of Health without written consent or permission from her. So now that is completely unheard of. And the reality is that we are conducting oversight over the executive. And so you can't then be going to the executive to ask for permission to conduct oversight over there, because actually, essentially, they must be the ones who are responding to us and who are reporting to us what is happening, not the other way around. So this is something that we're taking up. I've asked our provincial representative in the legislature in Gauteng to take it up. We are writing a letter to that speaker first in the legislature and ultimately to Parliament, to the Speaker in Parliament, to address this issue. And if we don't get joy, we will take it as far as we need to. We will take it to the public protector. We will take legal action if we need to, because we cannot have a situation where members of Parliament and members of the legislature are obstructed from doing the oversight role. The reality is that the ANC is not used to this. The ANC is used to having a majority and not having a very robust kind of parliament that does this work. And I've seen people on Twitter saying stuff like, oh, so now there's a trend of MPs going to public facilities. No, it's not a trend. It is our work. It is our job. It is what we are mandated to do. You just have not seen it because we have not had a robust parliament. We now do. We are people who are here to do their job. And hence I started with, it is busy and we are busy and there's a lot. And there is an aspect to which I think there just has not been the robustness that there was before. So we'll make sure that there is due access to private institutions, because some of the things that we're seeing people report on social media about what is happening in these hospitals is things that we need to address and we need to make sure are not happening and that people are getting the service that they should be getting at these public institutions. And so while we're still on the issue of accountability, we have a water crisis, and I will call it that, and I'll call it what it is. If you've been following any of my work, I have been speaking about this for 18 months. I have been writing to the previous minister. I've written op-eds on this before we were even in Parliament. I've been raising awareness on this issue. And outside of Parliament, before we got there, doing what we can to hold the public representatives and the executive responsible for making sure that we don't get ourselves to a situation where we are in crisis in a similar way to the crisis that we had with electricity. Because the reality is that while with electricity, you can make provisions. The electricity, some people can get solar, as expensive as that is. With electricity, you're able to, even just in your own home, use gas. Some people use paraffin stoves. You can use a candle for light. But when it comes to water, where are you going to get water if there is no water? Boreholes are incredibly expensive, and not everybody can be installing boreholes left, right, and center. There are issues that we're already starting to see in hospitals, in schools, public institutions when there's no water. But even when you're in communities that really have had challenges with intermittent water supply, you speak to gokos who say, I can't even take my medication when there's no water. You speak to parents who are saying, my kids are not going to school because I'm not able to prepare them. They're not able to bath in order to be able to go to school. You're having situations where you go to a school and the school closes at 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. every day when there is no water for 2 weeks. Now, that is really a situation that we can't afford. And so one of the things that I was busy with in Parliament this week is in one of the debates and the question sessions, asking the minister, what are you going to do to intervene in situations where the municipalities are simply failing to supply water? Because what we've seen the minister do is that she has been playing a blame game, where she says that actually, and I quoted a situation where in August, at the briefing, she said people seem to be confused and they seem to think that the responsibility of water is with the Department of Water and Sanitation, whereas it's with the municipality. And that is completely incorrect. The Water Services Act makes it clear what the various responsibilities are. And the ultimate responsibility of making sure that there is water coming out of your tap in a home, of making sure that there is a tap in your home to begin with, lies with the Department of Water and Sanitation, because Section 63 of that same act gives the minister the authority to be able to intervene when municipalities fail, to be able to say, actually, we're going to take this responsibility over as the Department of Water and Sanitation, and we're going to make sure that citizens are getting water, that institutions are getting water. Of course, there's a process to that. And of course, there's procedure to that. And this is the answer that the minister gave me when I asked, at what point fanele kuze kwenzakalani in order for you to act in municipalities that are having the rights of citizens to water being contravened? And she responded and said, there are processes, COCTA has to be involved. Nobody disputes that there are processes. The question is, when do you begin administrating those processes to make sure that citizens have water? And so this is something that we will continue to follow up as well. We will continue to make sure that we are assessing the state of water supply in the various municipalities across the country, and to then, in that Water and Sanitation Portfolio Committee, be making sure that we engage the minister and push for intervention where needs be in municipalities where that local authority or that municipality has failed to provide water. At the end of the day, this is one of those administrations that are not going to get away with not delivering to the people of South Africa, not on our watch. What was one of those things that I've become very passionate about. I mean, I did not come into this role or this work of public service being passionate about water, but it was one of the first things that I realized when I started spending a lot of time in communities that, hey, there's a water crisis happening. And so I've become very passionate, because you actually can't live without water. The economy is going to suffer if we don't have water. And Lord knows, we cannot afford to have another economic crisis. And the last thing that I want to talk about is something that is, again, very close to my heart. Economy, employment. The QLFS report, Quarterly Labor Force Survey report, came out this week, and it's not looking good. It's not looking good. We're told that there is a 1% decrease in unemployment, but really, given the crisis that we really have, at 41.1% of unemployment by the expanded definition, that is still way too high. But actually, what was more concerning for me was to look and see that of the 294,000 jobs that were said to have added over the past quarter, 194,000 of them are from community and social services. Now, that means that only 100,000 of those jobs are from other economic sectors. The issue for me becomes, where is industry? And where are the jobs from industry? It was in the same day that I'd been sitting in the Trade and Industry Portfolio Committee, and we had been receiving a presentation from the executive from Trade and Industry on the incentive programs that they run and on the results or the success of those incentive programs. And some of what they were reporting was that, there were jobs that have been created and all these numbers that they were saying, and it just was not correlating. You look at the less than 100,000 jobs that have been created by industry in the past quarter, and you listen to the numbers that they were giving us in various sectors, which are industry sectors, and it's not correlating. Something is wrong. So either somebody is lying or the way in which these reports are being done is not suitable for what we're actually wanting to assess in terms of employment creation. The bottom line, and some of the contributions that I gave to that executive, was, first of all, we need to be making sure that these programs that we run are actually giving us the outcome that we want to see. I asked, what is the review process? How are you reviewing and making sure that these programs are actually relevant and that they are giving the results that we want to see? And if so, how are you then establishing whether or not to continue? What determines how we continue with some of these programs that some of them have been running for, the course of democracy, and we're not seeing out of them what we need. But I think more concerning was that there just isn't the boldness or an audaciousness, particularly in that trade and industry portfolio that we are seeing. We're not seeing a different way of doing things. We're not seeing risk being taken and going, actually, we've been doing this for 30 years. We have only, over the past 10 years, seen an increase of 1% in the GDP of this country. And that is a problem. We just cannot have that kind of situation. So we need the kind of leadership that is going to be bold, that is going to be looking at different ways of doing things, that is going to be looking at different ways and innovative ways of ensuring that we have employment that is created in this country. I mean, part of my own response to the QLFS reports is this. We need to make sure that we are looking at infrastructure projects and the SOEs particularly that are responsible for some of our infrastructure. Transnet, as an example, is a SOE that really could contribute towards employment creation in this country. And we need to look at reform of those SOEs. So having looked at the QLFS report, I have a couple of contributions that I've shared in the various portfolio committees about how we actually need to turn around this unemployment situation and crisis really that we have in this country. You can't have close to 70% of young people unemployed. You can't have over 40% of South Africans unemployed. You can't be increasing the number of people that are defined or categorized as having been unemployed in the long term or long-term unemployed and think you don't have a crisis. We have a crisis. So part of my own contributions are that, first of all, we need to look at infrastructure projects that can create employment. We need to look at the likes of Transnet. How do we get these SOEs working that can stimulate employment in this country? And part of that is making sure that we're looking at options like public-private partnerships in order to reform the SOEs and to make sure that they're working. The second is to say, how do we look outside of the mainstream economy that we have been so dependent on in making sure that we create employment and actually grow the economy? And I'm going to be like a stuck record, and I will always be talking about how we need to look at the township economy. We need to make sure, and we've been calling for this for a long time as Build One South Africa, that we declare townships, at least strategic townships, as special economic zones. We are not going to grow the economy looking in the same areas, looking in the same sectors, looking in the same even geographical areas to be growing our economy and to be boosting our economy. We need to look outside of that. But there are also other political reasons for us to be looking at that. We need to look at the fact that we have townships that were marginalized intentionally from the economy. And we need to make sure that there's economic activity and economic growth and that wealth can be created in our townships. It's part of how we transform the economy. It's part of the redress effort. It's part of making sure that we have healthy communities where people can work where they live where they work, where families can actually be healthy with present parents. Lastly, small businesses. We have a minister and a department that is putting the wool over our eyes and constantly conducting PR exercise to make it look like there is a real contribution towards the growth of SMMEs in this country, and there is not. There are tick box exercises that allow for glowing reports where there is actually no real difference, no tangible difference to small businesses in this country. We have to make sure that we are truly investing in small businesses. We have to make sure that we are truly supporting small businesses in this country. We have an NDP goal of 90% of jobs created to be coming from SMEs by 2030, and we are nowhere near that. But the Minister of Small Business Development does not, in her reporting, tell us how many jobs her interventions and her programs have created and are creating over the periods that she reports on. And that's a problem. And so even in that portfolio committee, it will remain my priority and it will remain my mission to make sure that the minister reports on jobs created and sustainability of SMMEs as a return on the investment of the programs that she is doing. It's not about making sure that your connects and your chommies are getting business from the programs of the departments, about making sure that we are genuinely growing that sector that is small businesses in this country. And so that's it for me. Those are my thoughts over the past week. That's some of the work that we've been doing over the past week. As always, if there is anything that you want to contribute, if there's anything that you want to share, if you have questions, please email me on nwebster@parliament.gov.za. But more importantly, I want to know from you, if you're a small business owner, what has the Minister of Small Business Development done for you lately? What has the department done for you? Have you engaged the department? What has been your experience? What do you want to change? I want to know that from you. Bye.